Born and raised in the United States, Swamiji has a master's in management, finance, and information systems from the University of Texas at Austin. He gave up an illustrious career in the finance industry after making valuable contribution as a strategy consultant in McKinsey and Arthur Andersen, an e-commerce consultant for IBM, and a financial strategist for Goldman Sachs and Motorola.
He was initiated into the temple fold by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, having completed his training and Sanskrit studies from the BAPS Swaminarayan Training Center for Sadhus in Gujarat.
Since then, he has dedicated his life to the service of the temple, among whose first supporter was none other than GIIS patron Dr. L.M. Singhvi. We are honored to have such a learned and accomplished personality in our midst today.
I invite Atul sir to please guide his Swamiji to the stage for his speech. Sir, please.
Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavan ki jai, Akshardham Maharaj ki jai, Guru Hari Mahant Swami Maharaj ki jai. Today's a Friday, isn't it? Is it Friday today? Thursday. So tomorrow's Friday. And remind me, in Singapore, do you guys go to school on Saturdays? No. So that's why we look forward to Fridays, right? Because what do we get on Saturdays and Sundays? It's a day off. So just before I begin, I just want to understand, in the audience, you're in which, now in India we call it standard, in America they call it grade, in the UK they call it maybe a level, whatever you call it here, what do you call it? Grade? This is 8. So you're all in the same grade, 8? So about 13, 14 years old? Okay. Roughly 12 to 13 to 14, depending how smart you super are. So I'm sure, first of all, we had to pull you out of the school, your curriculum, right? Right now you're in some class, maybe PT class, or maybe some science and math class. And you had to come and you said some Swamiji is going to speak. Now, I remember years ago when I was your age, sitting in a school. And a Swamiji, if they had told me a Swamiji has to speak, we said, oh my God, there's going to be some long gatha. There'll be some big Sanskrit shloks. Om, blom, shlom, shlom, shlam, 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 right? And you feel, oh my God, what's going to happen? And when do we have to finish all this work? But I've come to tell you today, I've not come here for any katha. I've not come here to give a lecture. And I've not come here to give any kind of boring speech for you. I'll make sure to keep it on time and short. Paka? It's okay? But glad to, and I appreciate the warm welcome by Sir Atulji and your entire team. And a beautiful campus. We had the opportunity to visit your campus in Tokyo as well. And we had to visit the mothership here. And I had a wonderful introduction of the campus, Global Indian International School, and got a chance to see all your different activities you do. But sitting in your audience today, normally as students, and I'm talking to all the students, the school is nice to have a building. We like to have it so we can put a nice selfie on the Instagram. Everybody has an Instagram here? No, not allowed to officially have one. Unofficially, we all have one, right? We all have a Facebook account? No? Some, yes. Everybody has a Gmail account, right? Yes. Everybody is able to at least see YouTube? Yes? Yes. So we live in a world of social media, of connection, of internet, of information, right? And looking at all this, I'm thinking, I want to have just one simple conversation with all of you today. That, what does this all mean for us? As students, when we all went to school, we enjoyed a wonderful education. The building looks beautiful. The curriculum is going to be there. But in our time right now we have, on this 25th of April, 2019, what are we thinking about in our minds? When is Friday coming? Because day after Friday is Saturday. And what do we do on Saturday morning? Wake up late. Yeah, right? And then we're able to enjoy watching a nice television, a nice relaxing weekend. But you know, these teachers, they're too smart. How much homework do they give us? Too much homework, right? All Saturday, Sunday, right? And the worst is, you know what the worst is? On Monday morning. If you have an exam on Monday morning, what time does school start here? 9. And first class is at 9 o'clock? 9? 9:15. Imagine if you have an exam, a test, a quiz at 9:15 on Monday morning. Whole Saturday, Sunday goes away, right? All flushed down the toilet, right? Don't enjoy. My friends, the thing in school life, it's a beautiful time where you get to enjoy all the different things. When you get up in the morning, what is the first thing you think about? Do you have to wear uniforms here? So you wear your uniform, right? You have to make sure you get on time to the school. And make sure you get there. And don't get in the teacher's way, right? You don't want to get caught by a teacher doing anything bad, correct? And then the second thing we have in our minds in schools is what? Hanging out with our friends. Look to the left of you and look to the right of you. See the person sitting next to you on the left and the right. Is he or she your friend? Yeah, I hope so. And you think about, oh, we're going to talk to each other there. Though you're chatting on WhatsApp and all these different things before and after as well, right? But when you get to school, you have all memories. But there's something else more about school life that sometimes we forget. That there's an end of school, right? At the end of school, there's a day that finishes. When the school finishes, what happens? You go home. You go home, put your book bag away, maybe have a snack. Pretend to study, but really you're just going to wait and wait and wait until you really have to study around evening time. That's called procrastination. And then you start your work, and then you do your schoolwork, and then you finish for the day. Start over again. But there's something else beyond this as well, right? Because one day you'll finish from school here. And then what? There's life after school, is there not? What about after that? And what about after that? From school you go to, I think you call it college or university. And then after college or university, where do you go to? Work? Maybe higher education? A master's degree? A PhD? A doctor? Whatever you decide to do in your educational line. And then what? Then you work. And then what? But what happens is we normally just think about, when will Friday come? When will Saturday come? We don't think about what will happen today. Most of us are 12, 13, 14 years old, 15 years old. But what will happen to us in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And when we look at life, it's a long time. But when we're young, we think that's a long time away. And when you finish school, you'll think, oh, I had so much to do. And for this is a very special, important thing. Is that student, there are these magical students, there are a few rare students, maybe sometime in this audience, who is not thinking about a Friday. What is he or she thinking about? What will life be like tomorrow? And for that, what will I do today? Yeah? What will life be like tomorrow? And am I ready for tomorrow? 10 years ago, if someone asked you, if I'd asked you what your email was, your YouTube, or your social media account, you look at me and say, what is that? And today it's very common, right? In 10 years' time, what will life be like? Different, right? And in 10 years later, you ask your mother and father when you go home, When was the first time you used the internet? Everybody at home has Wi-Fi? Okay, raise your hand if you have Wi-Fi at home. Raise your hand, keep your hand up if you have a computer at home. Internet, a mobile phone, put your hand down. Have you seen a time in life when there was no electricity at home? You have? Okay, put your hands down. Has everybody has a fridge at home? Raise your hand if you don't have a fridge at home. But do you know what, my friends? There was a time in this world where there was no electricity, there was no fridge, there was no Wi-Fi. Yes, remember, my friends, there was a world without Wi-Fi. But my point is today, is tomorrow, 10 years later, 20 years later, when you come as alumni, and you'll be facilitated like this on this podium, talking. Atulji will still be here, huh? Don't worry. And you'll come up and you'll say, what was my life as school life? And your children will say, what a backward life you lived. Huh? You're so old and ancient, all of you people will become. Old and ancient, huh? You'll become dinosaurs. It's prehistoric, primal animals living back in the old days. Dad, your kids will say, Dad, Mom, you used to type? What an old, archaic way. You don't speak anymore? There's not voice recognition? You actually had a physical phone? There's no holograms anymore? The world will change. All this is one important thing. Today people are driving. Tomorrow people's cars will fly. Today you take a flight. Tomorrow you're going to take planes at the speed of light. These are things that you might think are imaginations, but years ago nobody thought about flying. Nobody thought about driving. And the communication, you'll have holograms. Maybe even tomorrow you don't have to leave your home. You'll just go virtually to a campus. The world will change. But what will not change is who you are. And what you decide to do, that is in your hands. To change or not to change is in your hands. And for this the biggest value that we have is the idea that any development we want to do requires one important thing. So for that, I'm going to give you a story. We just was welcomed with a wonderful statue of Mahatma Gandhi. In India, Mahatma Gandhi, after Mahatma Gandhi, is probably one of the most celebrated individuals, personalities of Indian history. And I would arguably say after him is probably Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is probably one of the second most, or after Mahatma Gandhi, most celebrated, highly respected across the board, across all geographics, demographics, all backgrounds. A president of India, a chief scientist of India, a thinker, a true statesman, a person of a real Indian origin who really had whose heart was embraced by the entire world of India. And Dr. Kalam used to always say one important thing. We come from Swaminarayan Akshardham in New Delhi. And he said, when I visited Swaminarayan Akshardham, I learned an important lesson about life. The dialogue happened, actually, there was a really wonderful, unfortunate earthquake that happened in the western part of India, in a state called Gujarat, in the western part called Bhuj, in 2001. It was on 26 January, the day of the Republic of India. At that time, there was really distraught, everything was shut. It was a very high epicenter earthquake, almost I think above 8. And devastation happened all over the city, the region. The greatest minds of India got together, and on CNN interview, they were discussing how to make this relief work happen, and we should be doing this. Dr. Kalam was the chief scientist of India. He came online, and he said, we must do this. A representative from our organization was also on there. And they mentioned, sir, it's easy for you to say all these things sitting in Delhi in the studio. But right now on ground, there's nothing. Zero. It's easier said than done to talk. Dr. Kalam listened to this. So the next day he took the flight to Bhuj. He came down, drove down, and saw the devastation for himself. But there he saw the BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha, a non-profit NGO organization, which we are from. And he saw that the relief work what they were doing, within 45 minutes to 1 hour, a food kitchen was already started. They said that nobody is to ask anybody's background, their name, what religion they come from, what nationality, what caste they're from, and everybody's to get free food. 1.5 million, 3 million hot meals were served to everybody. And he saw the relief work that was happening, the smart relief work, the value-added relief work that was happening. And he said, how is this all happening? When he went inside and saw the tin cities, he saw that normally the Red Cross and other organizations, normally what they do is when you have relief work, you put people in big, big pins. You put some tin sheds around you, and you stuff people inside. Instead, they put small, small homes and had a public toilet. They said that there were opticians there, people with glasses, because the earthquake had happened at 7 o'clock in the morning. People had run out of their homes in their nightgowns sometimes. People had forgotten their glasses. So there are opticians there. When the earthquake happened within 3 days, Pramukh Sai Maharaj, the head of BAPS, the Guruji at the time, he had sent over 10,000 watches. Because he said, you're going to tell people to eat. They don't know the time. If I ask you what time it is, what do? Where do you reach for? Your mobile or your watch? But if you don't have it, what do? Can you imagine a life without a time? Without electricity? He went there and he said, people have not had a shave for 3-4 days. He sent 7,000 barbers. Give them a clean shave. When he went to ladies, he said, you're going to give relief kits. Have you given relief work, medical kits to the ladies with sanitary napkins? A sadhu that was born in 1921 when sanitary napkins were not there had a thought. Do you give relief work with value-added relief work? There were communities there. The people did not take handouts from other people. So he gave anonymous tiffins. You left tables, you put these tiffins, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. In the morning you got 1B, 2B, 3B back. For 3.5 months, anonymous tiffin systems happened. So much relief work was happening. The Red Cross, the governments of all agencies used to come to this relief campus to learn how this happened. And Dr. Kalam said, how is this happening? I must find out who is the engineer behind all this. So then he journeyed back to Delhi. In the year 2001, in July, Pramukh Sai Maharaj was in New Delhi. We were building the largest Hindu temple, comprehensive Hindu temple in the world called Swaminarayan Akshardham in New Delhi. It's a 100-acre campus, a cultural campus with the mandir, an IMAX movie theater, the first in India, takes you a journey all over India, a boat ride that takes you on a 14-minute boat ride on the history of India from 10,000 years till to date, robotic shows, and an evening water show, designed by the same designer who's designed the Beijing Olympics and all the Disney water shows, who's designed the Sentosa show in Singapore, the same designer as a volunteer. So Dr. Kalam, he went to meet Pramukh Sai Maharaj, and he was seeing the plans of Akshardham being designed in the year 2000. The project was going to finish in a record 5 years. And in 2005, the opening was going to happen. And Dr. Kalam, he had met Swamiji, and he had saw the plans for Akshardham. And then he writes in this book, called Transcendence, My Spiritual Experience with Pramukh Swami. He says, I was having this dialogue with Swami, and I wanted to share with him my research, because I'm the chief scientist of India at the time. And he told Swamiji that I have been researching for a long time how to make India a first world country. And I've talked to every scientist, every entrepreneur, children, old, young, men, women, religious people, all sectors of society I've talked to. And from that, I've come down with 5 basic points how to make any third world country a first world country, developed. And in that, I have written a book. It's called Ignited Minds, all my conversations with people. In that conversation with religious people is this conversation he's having with Pramukh Sai Maharaj, which he has also put into Transcendence. And so Dr. Kalam is writing about this, and he says, I have 5 basic things. If we focus on defense, education, infrastructure, communication, and health. And in this entire thing, if we focus on this, any third world country can become a first world country. Great. Pramukh Sai Maharaj listens to all this, and he says, Sir, I can see after your thousands of people as a chief scientist of India, everything has been done. Can I ask that maybe you should add an extra point? And he looked at him and he said, what more can there be? I am the chief scientist of India. I am the father of the nuclear age of India, the missile man they call me. I have done everything, and I have talked to everybody and anybody. And this Swamiji, who is of 6th standard education, who doesn't speak English, whose Hindi is very broken, who is a very simple man, what could he say? And Swamiji gave him a logic. He said, sir, you want to improve the health. You'll build 5-star hospitals. Hospitals that will have the best infrastructure, the best care, ISO standard, imported machines from abroad, maybe even doctors from all around the world, and you'll have the best. But is there a guarantee that doctors will not steal kidneys? Is there a guarantee that people will not be corrupt in the hospital? Is there a guarantee that when we have an exam on that Monday morning, I don't try to cheat sometimes? You know what I'm talking about, right, my friends? There's always an inclination. What is the guarantee that if you build construction, the people will not use second-grade material and take the middle money for themselves? He said, sir, in any institution, in any system, in any framework, the buildings will be beautiful. The roads will be wonderful. The computer systems will be first class. But who runs them is people. And for that, how will the people be? So giving the example of the hospital, he said, how will that be? So I want to add a 6th point. And what is that? Values. If you have value-based, if you lead a life of honesty, of purity, of family, of integrity, of honor, doing the right things, no lying, cheating, or stealing, then development will happen. And he said that value-based, and that struck Dr. Kalam like a bullet in his mind. And he said, I've been missing, Eureka, I've been missing the most important thing. That the most fundamental subatomic level of any development is what? Values. What is it? Values. If you don't have values, and you build without it, you build something, it will all crumble. But if you have values as your foundation and base, everything will develop. Dr. Kalam took this message. He redesigned his entire strategy so much. He continued dialogue with Swamiji. He became the president of India. He always mentioned this, values. He wrote in his books, have values. He goes to schools, he would say, have values. He would say, if you want to be the best, be value-based. Everything he said is being honest, being pure, being truthful, being a value-based life will give you not just success, but happiness in everything you do. And that was an amazing thing that then afterwards, he was inspired to write his own book based on this called Transcendence. A unique and wonderful book talking about his spiritual experiences with Akshardham, with Pramukh Swamiraj, and in general about life. Point in this is the biggest thing we have in our development. You'll have an iPhone. How many of you guys have a Samsung or an iPhone? You have a mobile phone? Raise your hand. Who has an iPhone? Who has an Android? Put your hand down. Samsung Galaxy? A Redmi, Chinese phone, something like that. Latest version, right? iPhone may have maybe a 7, 10, something like that, iPad. How many versions are there right now? So many coming, right? They'll keep developing. Keep going. But do you know what? You can use a phone to do constructive things, right? You can build things, you can make things, and you can use a phone as destructive things. If you read in the news, the latest bombings that happened in Sri Lanka were all detonated by an iPhone. A phone can be used, a mobile phone, can be used for good and bad. Is the phone bad or good? No. But who is bad or good? The person using the phone. And for that, what happens to make a person use technology, use education, use knowledge, use intelligence in the right way is values. A value-based life makes a person be a monkey or a man. I'll give you a last anecdote. 3 presidents were talking to each other. And it was the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of India, UK, and the Prime Minister of India. And they're having tea and talking about how the world is working right now. And the US President, the British Prime Minister said, England, UK is the best country in the world. Of course, Singapore did not stand in this conversation because they know they're the best. The British Prime Minister said to everybody, we're the best. He said, well, why do you say that? Because at one time we ruled the entire world. The sun never set on the British Empire. We're that wonderful. The Americans are laughing. The British Prime Minister is keeping quiet on the side, unnaturally. Then the Americans said, no, we're the best. Economically, we have the whole development right on our hands. What we say goes. So the British Prime Minister says, yeah, but look, I'll prove it to you. If you take any of our buildings and you put a watch, and you take off the watch and you drop it, it'll take 1 hour for it to go down. That's how big our buildings are. Wow, what a building. The Americans scoffed at the guy. And he said, yeah, right. You go to the American buildings and you go on top and you take a watch and you drop it. It'll take 1 day for it to drop down. That's how big American buildings are. Everything is big. Okay? Try it sometime. Just don't use your watch, use a friend's watch. All this time, the British Prime Minister is saying, the Indian Prime Minister, he's saying, no, he's keeping quiet, and he's laughing. So the American President, the British Prime Minister said to him, hey, what are you laughing at us for? What do you have to show? What do you guys have? You don't have development, you don't have this, you don't have high speeds, you don't have this. And he said, sir, folded his hands and humbly said, you're right. We might not have tall buildings yet. We might not have the highest railroads yet. We might not have the most pristine infrastructure yet. But sir, if you take the simplest shacks, the simplest homes in India, and you go on top, climb onto the terrace, and don't take a watch, but take a monkey, and you drop it off from the top of the terrace, when it comes down in India, it becomes a man. That is the beauty of India, because of its values. That is what India is about. It gives you a chance in the culture and the civilization of learning to live a value-based life. I won't take too much of your time, but the only message I have today is that whatever we do, because in the audience I see today future doctors, lawyers, engineers. I see maybe even a Prime Minister of Singapore here, Atulji. I see, a few people who are going to be great leaders around the world. Another Bill Gates, maybe, Mark Zuckerberg, your time period, right? The next Facebook owner is going to be here. But in all of this, you will have success. You'll have comfort. You'll have money. You'll have nice clothes. You'll have a big house. But if you want to be happy, the only quest we have is lead a value-based life of honesty, of purity, and of good thought to help other people. And to do others as you like to be done unto yourself. And to lead a life, as our Guru used to say, in the joy of others lies my own, in the good of others abides my own, in the progress is my own. And I hope and pray today that may you all live a value-based life, may you always be happy, and you always be successful in everything you do, may you achieve the highest levels you can. And in this school, which is really based, which you can see on values, not just academics, not just athletics, but leading a total curriculum life. If you can imbibe these values, as you have a statue of Mahatma Gandhi, whose life was based on values, to like so many other people, may you all get peace, progress, and happiness in your personal lives. Thank you very much. project that we're doing. We're from BAPS, Swaminarayan Sanstha. We have about 1,200 temples around the world and cultural centers. And this is the latest project we're doing in a country called the UAE. It's in the Gulf countries. And in that is the capital called Abu Dhabi. And this is on a 24-acre campus which was gifted us by the Sheikh, the Crown Prince, to build a traditional Indian temple in the Middle East, the first of its kind ever to be done, all carved by hand by stone. And so this project actually, about 4 days ago, the foundation was done. Now in 2 years' time, the entire project will develop. So the unique thing about this is what I was talking about, is the idea when you have values, true values, it transmigrates beyond the boundaries of geography, beyond any kind of religion, beyond any type of culture. When the Sheikh's brother, the foreign minister of UAE, came to visit Akshardham in New Delhi, one single visit, he said, you must build a temple. He gifted 23 acres of land and said, build a temple here, and he created a ministry of tolerance and happiness. And for that, they created an entire ministry because they felt that the values that happen in this temple, in this culture of Indian culture, are something that are so universal, of honesty, of good, of purity, of brotherhood, of non-violence, of peace and progress. It's something that we must share with everybody. And so they brought this in, this is the latest project we have. And so it gives the idea, a test case, that if you actually have values and honesty and purity, it's something that will go beyond that everybody will accept.
Moving on to the questions. Are there any questions from the audience?
So what are your impressions of the GIIS Tokyo campus, and did you share any message over there for the diaspora which we could also resonate with?
The GIIS campus in Tokyo.
Yes.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Ashish Kumar.
Ashish? Kumar.
Kumar.
Nice to meet you, Ashish. Nice question. So yes, I think about 2 weeks ago, we had have a seat. We had a wonderful opportunity to visit your new campus in Tokyo, GIIS. And it was a wonderful campus, I think brand new, newly built. Wonderfully welcomed, very well organized, very meticulously detailed. And what was our impressions of them was similar to the campus here, was a very focus on total well development. Some schools, you just talk about academics and what grades you get. But there was a total conversation about being a well-balanced person, physically, mentally, emotionally, and academically, as well as in all the different facets. Wonderful campus reform. Thank you.
Sir, Akshardham, my question to you is that Akshardham temple has been welcoming of leaders of all hues and inclinations in the past. And recently it's been announced that Akshardham will have a presence in the United Arab Emirates. So, and such brotherhood is rare and welcome. So, how can this incident be liberated to spread peace around the world?
What's your name?
Abhay Premi.
Nice to meet you, Abhay. Abhay?
Yes.
Nice question. You get tired, you can have a seat. So your question was, how can the Akshardham temple help to spread peace and progress? One of the beautiful things about Akshardham, my first question is, how many of you have ever visited India, this campus? How many of you have ever visited New Delhi? How many of you have ever seen Akshardham? One few souls. Okay, put your hands down. So my first thing is I'd like to invite you all, because we have a saying, seeing is believing. If you go to Akshardham, the beautiful thing which Pramukh Swami Maharaj, the creator of Akshardham, making it, had one basic idea. It is to give a message of something. Anything you go, there are 20,000 statues inside the temple, murtis we call. But each of them have a history, some background. Anything you have in art is not just for decoration, but they give a message. And the biggest message is a place of peace. Akshardham itself, one of its meanings means place of eternal peace. And the main message of Akshardham is that anybody from any walks of life can come. In a year's time, 193 countries, people from 193 countries visit Akshardham. because there's no barring of anybody from any background. And anybody can come as a visitor, as a worshiper, or just as somebody who just wants to see, to observe. And the main message there is to live and let live. And I'll also quote what the main message, what Pramukh Swami Maharaj had said, which is in Akshardham, in the United Nations. In the year 2000 was the World Peace Summit for religious leaders. And Pramukh Swami Maharaj gave the same message that was in Akshardham, that if in the world, if we want peace, so we don't have any types of violence and have harmony, he said, you must not have tolerance. Everybody said, what? No tolerance? And he said, no, we must not just have tolerance. We must have acceptance. We must accept people for who they are, what they believe in, what they live for. And when you can accept people for who they are, then you will have true peace and harmony. And the main message of Akshardham is acceptance. When you share one culture, two cultures come together. And that's the message when all the different dignitaries from around the world, all the, I think 90 presidents, prime ministers that have visited around the world, see that you have a place where people talk about harmony, of understanding, and of acceptance of each other's culture.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Sanjay, and my question to you is, could you please give us a glimpse of your life from corporate culture in the US to priesthood in India?
Oh, Akshay?
No, Sanjay.
Sanjay. Thank you very much. So, I think you mentioned, I was born and raised in the US, and I did my education there, and I was able to work in the corporate world, which was a wonderful time and a wonderful experience. And I would not never trade it for anything. And I think it's a golden opportunity where I got to learn a lot and see a lot. And if you're asking me how I transitioned from that to being a Swamiji, as a monk in India, a Hindu monk, we call them Swamijis, was equally a wonderful opportunity. And for me, I found equally challenging, a wonderful time to being able to engage my mind was actually being able to help other people and serve other people. So to answer that question, I have one caveat, that in the corporate world, I learned one important lesson, that money will give you comfort. You'll get the next i20, iPhone 20, 30, 40, whatever version you'll get. You'll be driving the best cars, you get the best clothes, you'll always have air conditioning, all the different facilities. But what is that all called? Comfort. You'll be a CEO, a CFO, a COO. You'll make lots of money and have lots of comfort. But that doesn't necessarily give you happiness. So it's important to study hard, to do well, to be the best, so that you can be the best in your profession. But an enlightened person, a knowledgeable person will understand that will give you comfort. Happiness is something, an intrinsic dimension. That is something that comes from within. If you're rich or poor, old or young, if you're knowledgeable or not knowledgeable, if you have a Singapore passport, don't have a Singapore passport, it doesn't matter. It's open for everyone to be happy. And that comes from inside. And for me, I found when I was able to help other people and do social service, I found happiness in that. And that is something that made me want to become a Swamiji.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, my name is Shaurya, and my question for you is, sir, the Akshardham temple has been hailed for its beauty, grandeur, and architecture. Now it has become, it is amongst the wonders of 21st century. What are the honors that comes the temple's way?
Well, thank you very much for that question. The Swaminarayan Akshardham in New Delhi is the second Akshardham we have built. One is the first one in Gandhinagar Akshardham, and the third one we're building in the United States, in a small town next to Princeton University, called Robbinsville, that is on a 260-acre campus. The Akshardham in New Delhi is hailed by the Guinness World Book Records as the largest comprehensive Hindu temple in the world. What that means is, there have been many old temples, maybe, built in large numbers, large in size, but are not in active use anymore. But a temple that is active in use and is worked day to day and is open for the public for worship and for knowledge and understanding, which the Guinness World Book Records came and gifted us as the largest comprehensive Hindu temple in the world. It is by far in India, in Delhi for sure, the most visited place in all of Delhi, and one of the top 3 visited most places in India. 90% of all people who visit Delhi visit Akshardham. And it's hallmarked because of its most unique thing. It wasn't built by a king. It wasn't built by the government. It was built privately by a non-profit organization, by a sadhu who does not have money, who lives a life as a brahmacharya, who has nothing but for service of society. And the Akshardham was built all by volunteers. Everything you saw was built by hand. There was no AutoCAD back then. It was all built by hand, and all carved and all assembled by volunteers, and all donated by volunteers of simple people, which gives Akshardham its uniqueness of something to give back for society, and something for society to love for.
Thank you, sir. We'll be entertaining the last question from the audience.
So you have brought about, So you have used your past knowledge to bring about improvement in your present, and the revamped audiovisual system at the Akshardham temple is a case in point. So what inspired you to do this, and how is it added to the glory of the temple?
What's your name?
Aditya.
Aditya, thank you, Aditya. To answer your question, I think in detail, is Akshardham is unique because it's not just a temple, but it's a cultural complex that uses a lot of technology. We brought the first IMAX large format screen technology to India, indoor boat rides, robotic animatronic shows, a live, almost you could say 4D water show that was designed by some of the best people in the world. And to answer that question, why we use technology and the effect of it, how that's helping us, is that we find that technology is something where spirituality and science can both coexist. Spirituality is the material of thought and ideas, and technology is the medium which you share good thoughts from. So both can coexist together. And the Akshardham, as a unique thing you talked about, how we took our experiences, instead of me talking about mine, I'll talk about the designer of the water show we had. The water show we have called Sahaj Anand in Akshardham is designed by a French gentleman called Yves Pippa. He's a person who is designed, he was the first designer of the Air France logo. On the Millennium Night, year 2000, he actually did the entire night lighting for the Eiffel Tower, which is ranked as first in the world. He designed, if you had seen the 2008 Olympics, he was a chief technical designer with Steven Spielberg. And if you've been to any Disney campus, in Disney World Orlando, in LA, in Tokyo, and Hong Kong, any water show that was built was designed by Yves Pippa. He is so good that in his lifetime, he was retired halfway through because he was so good nobody else was getting awards. So they said, we're going to retire you because nobody else is getting awards. He was so good, he is so good, that he is on a 10-year waiting list for Disney. His 1 hour cost $1 million as a consultation fee. He came to Akshardham, and before we were going to make Akshardham, he was shortlisted. And we said, sorry, sir, you're too expensive for us because we're a non-profit organization. He went on his way, we started Akshardham, and then after the Beijing Olympics, we started Akshardham in 2005. In 2009, after the 2008 Olympics, he came to see Akshardham final formation. And he came and walked around the whole place. And he said one important thing. I'd like to help you guys, and I'd like to help you make a water show. We said, sir, we already have a water show here. And more importantly, we cannot afford you, you're too expensive. Because we are simple people, and we work for people. He said, no, I want to help you as a volunteer. And we said, what? Do you understand what you're saying? He said, no. So I asked him, what do you mean? Why? And he said, look, sir, my CV, do you know what a CV is? A resume, you call it? I am the best. People, they wait for years for me to see if I can talk to me as a consultant. And I have done the best. When you've done the Olympics with Steven Spielberg in the Olympics in Beijing, as right now the most technical Olympics in the world. There's nothing beyond that. I'm the number one. Today I went to a campus here in Akshardham in Delhi. And the 1,000 volunteers that are there, that partly dedicate their lives, giving 12 hours a day in volunteerism. I'm walking around this campus, and the 30,000 people I see here all day walking around, all the visitors, I'm inspired that every day, every volunteer here, every day is doing something for somebody else. And in my lifetime, I have never done one thing for somebody else. And I feel that my life is incomplete. Imagine, huh? One of the first designers, number one in his field, a career. He has money, he has wealth, he has fame, he has fortune, he has everything. Yet he feels empty inside. And he said, I have never helped anybody. And so I should do something for service for other people. That's the biggest lesson I learned from this temple. So he used his technology, his skills, and he assisted us, consulted us, and helped us build the water show we had as a volunteer. He read the Mahabharata, the Ramayana. He read the Gita, the Upanishad. And from the Upanishad, an ancient Indian scripture story, he found two stories. One story about a young boy named Nachiketa, who goes to the underworld to have a dialogue with the god of death about the meaning of life. And we made a water show in Gandhinagar, Akshardham in 2014. And in 2016, we made a water show in 2010. In 2014, we made a water show in Delhi about a story of Danavas and Devatas, good and bad. And they were fighting, and the good guys won, Devatas won, and they were rejoiced, and they came back to their palace, and then the ego that they had, God taught them a lesson and made a water show about that. But the story was Eve. He was moved by the fact of values, of Indian thought, of culture. And then that helped technology come. So that's how we use technology to bring values back to people's society and life.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'd like to just add something before you. So, two things very interesting. I had an opportunity to visit you, sir, in Delhi and really see for myself, like you said, seeing is believing, the entire technological wonder. What really struck me from a student point of view is the fascination of robotics. I think how many of you love to be in robotics in the future or do something about robotics, right? So many of them are interested. I think at any single location, if I've ever seen the largest gathering of robotics, it is at Akshardham temple. They have a full robotics museum where the robots are actually taking a human form and shape. And so tell us a little bit about, audiovisual presentations are, people are very familiar in this part of the world, but how did the idea originate about using robotics to tell a cultural story?
So, I think what Sir is talking about is that one of the exhibitions we have called Sarjan and Darshan is 10 robotic shows, audiovisual and animatronic shows. And these shows were actually developed in-house because we were rejected by Disney. So the story goes this, that our first Akshardham we did in 1992 in Gandhinagar Akshardham. And for that we were researching around the world. And there was a robotic shows, and there was an animatronic show that was actually done in Disney, where President Abraham Lincoln gets up and gives a Gettysburg Address. It's a very simple thing. We found this technology that is a unique, a wonderful medium to express an idea. And we had gone to them to learn about how could we do that. But they said to us back then that you come from a dirty, poor country, and you won't be able to afford us. So please go away. I said, fine. Luckily, we found the engineer that was with them. And he said, look, I'll give you an old throwaway robot. Our students, volunteers, took them, and then we reverse engineered the entire process. We created our own in-house robotics shows. And from that one robot, we created entire 10 different shows, robotic shows, which is Akshardham, Delhi Akshardham. Each of these shows has a value of honesty, of peace, of wishing good for others, of tolerance, of servitude. And we have a 2-minute show that creates an entire thing, an entire narration, and we use robots for that. And so that is how we started this entire team. So even in a mandir, we can actually have robotic people come work for us as well. I have a small, I'll share with you a YouTube video of the entire, our Akshardham trailer at the end. We can show that.
The other thing is, I noticed a lot of young people at the temple, very young students of your age, or maybe slightly 2-3 years older, who are college going, and they are actually doing almost like an internship. So how did the idea of internship really come? Because it's very uncommon for temples to have internships and places of worship as such. So maybe you can share what sort of opportunity and what sort of learning that internship provides, and maybe some of the students may actually look at forward.
Well, the Akshardham in New Delhi, actually, we have a research institute called the BAPS Swaminarayan Research Institute. And there we actually align with different academic research institutes. So students who can come to study and learn about different things, more on PhD level and master's levels. I see a lot of master's and PhD students in the future here. But also we have people who come for volunteering. So Akshardham is actually run on volunteers. So we actually have a process where you actually have an application, you come, you're vetted, and there you can come, and based on your skills and your wishes and your desires, we put you in the different fields, because we have from robotics, from engineering, from technology, from guest relations, to even cleaning, to different things, to food services, hospitality. All are actually used inside the entire campus. And so based on your needs and requirements, and then we go through an entire training process. So you actually have to go through an orientation and training session with us. And then you can actually say for maybe 15 days to 1 month to 6 months to however you like to, we can actually organize a training for you there.
I'm sure many of us GIIS students from not just this campus but the other campuses as well would be looking forward to such opportunities. And I'm sure they can find the information on the website.
Oh yeah, we will definitely just contact us, and we'll be happy to help you guys.
And I think lastly, I want to just, we just had a recent experience about constructing such a mega campus like this. And you mentioned very casually that the Abu Dhabi project is going to be entirely done by volunteers, as has been done in the past. And when they talk about volunteers, these are craftsmen, designers, engineers, everybody. So tell us the scale kind of is involved in that project in terms of how many volunteers, where are they based? Because it was quite a challenge for us to even just to manage professional people working on mega projects like this. And incidentally, one of the National Geographic is going to probably make a film about this particular campus in the future. So just share us, how do you manage such a mammoth project with volunteers who may be based in different parts of the world?
So I think to answer this story, I'll give you a story about Mukesh Ambani and how he tried to reverse engineer Akshardham in China. So in about year 2006 or 7, Akshardham opened in 2005. The Chinese Minister of Culture and the foreign Chinese minister had visited Akshardham. And in China, they were creating an entire area called basically the mini world, like you have in Shenzhen, window of the world. They were going to recreate, like at another location, iconic locations all over the world. You've heard of the Eiffel Tower? You've heard of maybe the Statue of Liberty? Burj Khalifa? In Kuala Lumpur is the Petronas. Smart guys you have here, huh? So they were going to create all of these different buildings and great locations to scale in China and say to them that we can bring you the world here, you don't have to go out to the world. And after coming to Akshardham, they decided we want to also copy Akshardham. because everything is made in China, right? Even the seat that you're sitting on is probably made in China. It is actually. Even the clothes you're wearing are probably made in China. So they came with an entire team. They stayed for 6 hours, studied everything, and they came back and they said, "Sir, sorry, we cannot make this. We cannot copy this." Mukesh Ambani, if you've heard the name Reliance, and Mukesh Ambani is right now the leading entrepreneur, businessman, industrialist, and the richest man in India for sure, and one of the top richest people in the world. So he brought 50 of his managers from Reliance Company, and they came to Akshardham. They stayed for a day, over about 12 hours. They brought their clipboards, literally, physically clipboards. I know you don't know what clipboards are now, but there's these ancient tablets, right? Without a computer, without tab, and then you have to put a piece of paper on there and you can write on them. That's called a clipboard. And they went around and they studied everything, took a measuring tape, they studied the in and out and this. And then Mr. Ambani came himself and they said to him, "Sir, okay." So he said, "Okay, I want to understand how did these Swamijis and all these volunteers make this temple in 5 years? 100-acre campus, all made by hand with no steel structure used inside, all by stone structure, right, with a chisel and hammer, and they made everything in 5 years. Construction is tough. You can understand." He said, "Sir, it's very simple. We cannot do this in Reliance." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Sir, the reason is because you pay a salary. Because every day when we finish work, we look at the clock. What time does school finish here? 3:35? What happens at 3:30? You pack your bags. What are you doing? You're waiting for 3:30. Come on, 3:35. The bell rings, we zoom away home, right? We're going to go home or your extra activities, right? We're looking forward to the end of work, at the end of school. So he said the same way. As employers, you are paying us a check. Because you are paying us, sir, we do our work, but only till 5 o'clock. Maximum 6 o'clock. These people, their Guruji does not pay them. They work as volunteers. And their paycheck is intrinsic. That is dividends of happiness. When you work as volunteers and with a spirit of selfless service, the motto of Pramukh Swami Maharaj, of Mahant Swami Maharaj of BAPS is, "In your joy is my joy. In your happiness is my happiness. And your progress is my progress." That is how the paycheck, that is the ethos, that is the value system, how these volunteers work. And that's how we do construction. And that's how these projects are run, by the hearts of volunteers who go beyond the scope of their work because they have something embedded intrinsically for them to do.
Thank you, sir, for this interactive session and for having answered all our questions. We would like to express our heartfelt thanks for you to come to our school today and enlighten our young minds.
We request you to kindly sign the guest book so we can cherish this moment forever.
I'm just going to read out what he has written for you, especially for you. Hard work plus prayers equal to success and happiness. That's a simple formula, isn't it? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I now request Mr. Temernikar to felicitate Swamiji with the memento as a mark of our respect.